Hello and welcome again to this edition of Meet the Candidates on WCMU. Here in 2020, we are speaking with our guests virtually, joined this time by Representative Roger Hauck. He is the Republican candidate for Michigan's 99th House District seat and the incumbent in the race. Good to see you, sir, and congratulations on the win in August, and as well
Thank you.
in this first
Easy
minute
to
or
win,
two.
David, when you don't have anybody running against you.
In our first moment or two, give us a little bit of background about you and the experience you bring to the campaign.
Yeah, this is going into my last term. As you know, you can serve 2 3-year two-year terms. I get that right. I grew up out in Beale City. I worked in a factory for 28 years, and then I was on the township board for 4 years at Union Township. So I've just been getting a lot of experience lately. Being a legislator for 4 years, it opened up a lot of things for me.
As the run-up to August was coming, and then obviously in the days and weeks since, you as candidate and also the prospective voters you've spoken with, what's been identified as key issues for this campaign?
For this campaign, it's the COVID pandemic we're living through. People are uncertain. I think people want to open up, but we want to make sure that we do it in a safe, responsible manner and that we use the data that is giving to us to be able to make right decisions. That's the number one issue I've been hearing about.
What else have they been telling you then in terms of what the impact has been then? When you say open but do it safely, obviously we're looking at an impacted economy. What is the projection? What do you propose we do in moving in that direction to do it safely but get things open and get the economy started again?
I think one thing that's going to help our area is the Supreme Court decision, because now we can go by area and we don't have to go by region. As you know, we were grouped in with the Grand Rapids area, and there's over 600,000 people that live in that area. So if there was an outbreak there, but it didn't affect us, we had to live under the rules of what happened in Grand Rapids. So I think that'll help us out. I think our local health department has a better feel of what's going on in our community, and we can work through that.
And what exactly are they saying then in terms of how they would alter that approach? And I guess the bigger question is as we deal with potentially some crisis of this nature, hoping we don't have to again, but should we do that, find ourselves there again, what would you propose in terms of long-term emergency planning and readiness that we would want to have in place should we find ourselves in a situation like this in the future?
Well, hopefully we can, when this is all done, we can go back and look to see what we did good and what we did bad. Obviously, the PPE situation, we didn't have enough of that. I think testing was big. I think we're finally starting to ramp up on testing. And then I think at the beginning, I think we were not 100% sure how the virus spread and what age groups it affected. And now we're more in tune with who's affected more, and when we can kind of adjust our thinking on that lines.
You're seeking re-election in November and would be in Lansing through the end of the year regardless. So if we look at the economic impact that we have had, what do you propose beyond just getting the economy open and restarted now? Economically, do we have to make any changes? What do you propose for looking at the economy through the big picture through this lens of what we've seen with COVID-19?
I think the biggest thing is that as a legislator and as being down in Lansing is we have to give certainty to the people we represent. We have to have a plan. Like I said, we need to get business rolling again, but we need to let the people know that we're going to open it up in a safe manner. We're going to use science and data, and we're going to try to keep the politics out of it. I think the uncertainty is kind of what's kind of scary with people. And, as you know, some people want to wear a mask. Some people don't think we should have to wear a mask. I think we got to try to come to a compromise and make sure that everybody feels safe in the environment we're working in right now.
Any other changes to economic policy that you feel the need to propose that would, again, sort of brace us better for something like this in the future, or can pick up in the aftermath of COVID-19 in terms of the businesses we know we've lost, and how do we regain some of that momentum for the negative impact that we've already experienced?
I think one of the biggest things, as I said earlier, is I think we need to look at this as a county by county issue instead of a regional issue. Like I said, what affects us in Isabella County is different than what happens in Clare County or Mecosta County or down by Detroit. And I think that's what we have to look at more as a regional approach. I'll give you a good example. When Central came back, there was an increase in COVID cases. So the health department came in along with Central, and they said, we're going to limit gatherings to 25 people in the city of Mount Pleasant and Union Township. They didn't say we're going to limit it to Clare, we're going to limit it to Denver Township. You know, they specifically limited it to the areas that was affected. And I think that's a good approach and a good way to look at it if this happens again.
We've seen an impact, obviously, on our schools. It's brought up many different aspects, not only in how the schools are funded and having the resources, but areas that do or do not have as much of an access to rural broadband, and the overall approach then to the impact we've seen on schools. What are your proposals moving forward?
Well, we just passed a rural broadband bill. The problem with the rural broadband bill is every time we try to pass it, we get the larger areas that try to get themselves figured into the rural broadband part of it. But this specifically has money set aside for areas in the rural area, like a lot of the areas that I represent. And then I think another thing we have to look at, and I blame the state, I don't blame the schools or anything like that, is we have to look at a better job of online learning, because everyone was kind of caught off guard and no one was really used to teaching that way. My son and daughter-in-law are teachers and they have to teach online. And my daughter-in-law teaches first grade. Can you imagine trying to teach first graders online? You know, it's just hard. So I think we got to, as a state, we need to come up with guidelines and tools and ways to help them better understand how to teach online.
What are the teachers then, who are also prospective voters that you've spoken with, what are they suggesting as sort of ideas, foundation for proposals you might make in that area to plan ahead to, again, have education be more flexible long-term, hoping we don't have to go through this again, but being prepared if we do?
I think I'm hearing a lot of different things. I think some of the teachers, depending on the age of a teacher, they're concerned about catching the virus themselves, where they might be in a more susceptible risk factor. I think the way my county did it, I'm proud. We have Mount Pleasant does it a little bit different than Beale City does it, and a little bit different than Shepherd and Coleman does it. And that was because the communities came together with the school board and decided what would work the best for them. I think the most important thing is we have to be flexible, right? Because you cannot, in a pandemic, I read this when the Ebola pandemic was going on, the one guy that was in charge of that says, you cannot be 100% effective on everything. You just got to go with what you think is working the best at that time, and hopefully that'll prevail.
So if COVID has dominated not only the economy in the present and moving forward, and it certainly had an impact on the schools, we back up and look at it from the public health standpoint, and the proposals you see from having been a lawmaker hoping to represent the 99th again, what do you propose we do in the area of public health to, beyond the PPE, just have us better prepared and perhaps more nimble, more flexible, whatever the case may be, to deal with something like this in the future, should it happen?
I think number one is testing. We need to know who's affected by it. I think we need to be able to react in like smaller areas. Like if there's an outbreak, we need to be able to shift all our focus to that outbreak. And we just, I hope when we're done and this is over with, I hope we go back and, like I said, look at the things that worked well and the things that didn't, and try to come to an understanding on how we can get everything to move in the same direction.
Other issues then that you would identify, even outside of these key points and perhaps outside of the overall impact that COVID-19 has had, that either you or the voters have brought up on the campaign trail that you see as a focus for this campaign?
I would say the number one issue that I've been hearing about is the unemployment issue. As you know, we shut the state down, so consequently our unemployment went up. Two things happened. We overwhelmed the system, and number two, we had a lot of people apply for unemployment that never had to go through that procedure before. And I was fortunate because I was able to help. I think we helped over 1,400 people. We were getting, anywhere between 100 and 200 calls a day. And it was frustrating. Like, they would go online, David, and they would hit by mistake that they weren't a U.S. citizen, right? Now, doesn't it seem like you would be able to go back and correct that when you were filling out your thing? Well, you weren't able to. You had to contact someone in the unemployment office, and nobody could get through. It was very frustrating. So that's one of the big things I think we need to look at.
And as the unemployment, the uptick that we saw certainly during this time, it brings us back to the economic question. Anything economic policy-wise that we need to look at that you would propose to deal with what may be a different shaped economy or an economy that is in the process of restarting, but may be altered to the point where it may shift us in a different economic direction? What would your proposals be there?
I think the biggest thing was probably trying to understand more how we as government can work with the business community to try to make sure that they can stay in business. I think one of the biggest things that the governor did wrong was like the movie theaters and the gyms is not giving them a chance to prove that they could do it, right? We should have let them open up, give them the guidelines they needed to open up. And then if individual movie theaters or workout facilities couldn't do it, then we should have to close them down. I think it's a fine line where there's public safety, but we also have to make sure that our businesses are able to thrive, because at the end of the day, the businesses are what drives our economy, and they drive jobs, and it's important that we work with our businesses.
Briefly then in our last minute, and I want to give you a chance for a final statement in our last 30 seconds, but do we look then at any change that you would propose when it comes to job training because of folks now that have had their businesses closed, can't bring those businesses back, may have to move to something else? What do you propose in that area?
Oh, I agree. I think we've been working on, for one thing, the skills trades aspect of it. I think once we get going again, if a business is closed down, we're still going to need an abundance of plumbers, electricians, carpenters. It's good paying jobs, and it's skillful jobs. I think that's something we have to look at. And of course, we have to look at retraining people and trying to find them to get them back into something that they could do better.
In that last half minute then with you, sir, the message you would leave, that final message with the voters as they get set to go to the polls.
I know it's uncertainty. We'll get by this. I'm proud of the people I represent. Everybody's been working hard. I know there's a lot of people that don't like wearing masks. There's a lot of people that think we should wear masks, and it makes me feel good that the majority of the people are wearing masks and trying to be safe. And it's a tough time. It's a tough time for schools. Obviously, kids should be in school, but I guess the main thing I'm trying to say, David, is we need to be flexible. We need to be prepared to react whichever way the virus sends us.
We appreciate your time talking with us today, and as well to the voters in the 99th House District. Stay safe. Good luck with the rest of the campaign, and thank you so much for your time.
You stay safe too. And hopefully next time we can meet in person, not on Zoom.
We have been speaking with Representative Roger Hauck, the incumbent representative for Michigan's 99th House District, seeking re-election to that office. A reminder that all qualifying candidates for these offices have been invited to participate in this series. I'm David Nicholas. We appreciate you joining us. Hope you will do so again. And remember to get out and cast your vote on Tuesday, November 3rd.